Welcome to the third session of the 4+2 Diabetes Reversal Strategy. Today we're going to learn why using your muscles helps reverse insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. Increasing our exercise and activity helps to restore our muscles' role as the glucose sink and decrease insulin levels. And so this is really the basis for this part of the reversal strategy. And remember, the muscle normally takes up 80 to 90% of the glucose that we eat and stores it as glycogen for future activity. And this very much is a glucose sink or a buffer. It's the buffer on the glucose system. Very, very important as we want to lower insulin levels. When we look at the twin cycle theory, remember there's the three different components that can lead to increased liver fat. So there's the energy overload of just too many calories, but also this decreased muscle uptake, as well as the increased fat spillover. And so this decreased muscle uptake is really what we want to focus on today and what we can do about it so that we can lessen the effect of glucose going to the not being accepted by the muscle, going to the liver, getting converted to fat, and participating in that twin cycle theory that drives the insulin resistance and drives the process underneath the type 2 diabetes. So if we were going to step back and look at exercise, if it was a pharmaceutical product, it truly would be the miracle pill. And so when you look at the research on exercise, we see a 27% reduction in diabetes prevalence with people who exercise, 30% reduction in death compared to people who exercise compared to people who don't, 20% lower breast cancer, 30% reduction in cardiovascular disease, 20 to 30% reduction in depression, 30% reduction in colon cancer, 22 to 83% reduction in osteoarthritis, and 30% reduction in falls. And really, all of this from exercise and activity. So if it could be packaged as a pill, and people are trying to break it down and try to reduce it to something that you could take as a pill, but really why? Because you can use this, albeit maybe not as convenient as a pill format, but very, very accessible to all of us. So really some pretty miracle benefits from exercise. When you look kind of overall, just above and beyond kind of these hard health outcomes, what we see with physical activity and exercise is increased sense of well-being, improved self-esteem, increased strength, better energy levels, increased mood, decreased symptoms of depression, anxiety, decreased stress, improved immune function, lower blood pressure, improved glucose levels, improved cholesterol, better bone density, and decreased symptoms for arthritis. So, above and beyond anything, we're going to feel better if we are active and we exercise. And so when we look at specifically with the risk of diabetes, it does go down with increased activity, even if there is no weight loss. So we're trying to reverse type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance by losing weight and reversing the energy overload. But very clearly, the evidence shows that just increasing the activity lowers the risk of diabetes, and it does so because the muscles are the glucose sink. It's a buffer. So if we can increase activity and get the buffer doing its job, that's super helpful. Exercise improves the uptake of glucose. So this is both during exercise and after exercise. So during exercise, it's going to take up more glucose to use. But also after exercise, we'll tend to store more glycogen afterwards. And this is both insulin dependent and insulin independent. And so this one's really key is, if we can get both of these mechanisms working, so with the muscle absorbing glucose with insulin more efficiently, but also absorbing more without insulin, it just lowers our insulin requirements. And we want to lower the insulin because that is going to be a key step or key driver in reversing the type 2 diabetes and insulin resistant process. Increased exercise improves fat burning. And so, both kind of during fasting will burn more fat. It sort of prioritizes fat burning, and as well as after meals and during exercise. So fat is a preferred fuel for our muscles when we're in the kind of aerobic or oxygen zone. And so the dose of exercise the World Health Organization has come up with is 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous exercise. Not a huge amount. You kind of look at it, it's, 20 minutes plus a little bit over 20 minutes a day. Anything in 10-minute increments can count. And really kind of, moderate to vigorous. Um, the challenge is only 17% of Canadians meet this target. And so we've got this miracle pill that 83% of Canadians aren't taking. And so in our diabetes reversal, we want to take advantage of this and uh, use this to help reverse our type 2 diabetes. Other evidence-based thresholds. So this has been studied a whole bunch of different ways, and it's great because it all keeps coming back around the same kind of dosage. So you start to see these other thresholds where you start to get benefits. 3 kilometers of walking per day, 8 kilometers, of running per week, 3,500 steps per day. They all kind of translate back to somewhere around that 20 minutes of exercise per day. So it's not a lot that we need to do to get started here. So in our programs, we call this 150 minutes a week, kind of level one. And so for people that are not active, this is what we want to get to. And we can construct it any way that is fun and people want to do. It's just getting out the door and getting active. And for many people, if they haven't been active, walking becomes kind of the first task. It's just getting out and getting out for a walk. Um, Level two fitness is where we start to think about putting together a portfolio. So at level one, we're happy with kind of getting out for a walk, kind of brisk walk, or maybe it's going out for a light jog, or getting on the exercise bicycle. Anything to kind of get things moving, and we start with that kind of 20 minutes per day. And level two fitness is really kind of for our programs is kind of our goal. It's like we'd love to see everybody doing level two fitness because I think they'll get the full benefits of exercise here, and even kind of above and beyond kind of those longevity and kind of hard health outcomes. I think people just feel better. And so level two fitness is really kind of putting together your portfolio, right? And so what we look at here is having a portfolio with a good amount of aerobic exercise. So aerobic meaning with oxygen. What we like about the aerobic stuff is the energy, the preferred energy source for this is actually fat. So this can be really useful for us in terms of, becoming more efficient fat burners, losing weight by burning fat. And the aerobic exercise, by and large, because it's kind of with oxygen, it means that it's at a pace that's not too hard. So usually kind of here, it's you could have a conversation. So, if you went out for a walk with a friend, you'd be able to have a good chat and conversation. Maybe your voice is a little bit clipped, your sentences are a little bit clipped, but you're not out of breath. You're not breathless with it at the pure aerobic state. And so this is really kind of something that, for most people, including athletes, this is often kind of the bulk, the most time they'll actually spend is often in the aerobic exercise zone. The next component is resistance training. And so here, what we want to do is actually focus really on the muscles. And the idea is to increase the strength and endurance of the muscles. And resistance training will drive, improve exercise mass and strength. It'll increase bone density. It improves metabolic health in the muscles, so the muscles actually do become more efficient by doing the exercise. And the lasting kind of benefit here is as you increase your lean mass, you increase your resting metabolic rate. In other words, you're gonna burn more calories during the day. And so if you can actually gain lean muscle, you're going to find that you're going to need to essentially, you will burn more of your energy. So definitely kind of a component in the exercise portfolio. And when we look at resistance training and aerobic training, so aerobic training, we often think of building up endurance. And often this is measured in the physiology lab by doing VO2 max. We can do that here at the garage. Measure somebody's VO2 max to see kind of what their aerobic capacity is. VO2 max correlates with longevity, but strength and muscle mass independently correlates with longevity as well. And so together they're quite synergistic. So really recommend that anybody who is exercising, we want to get them to doing both. We want to increase their strength and we want to increase their endurance. The third component here is really functional movement, and functional movement is really looking, working kind of across multiple muscle groups, and it's really useful from a standpoint of fall prevention. So it's interesting. We often kind of talk a lot about bone density, and we want to get improve people's bone density so that they do not break a hip, because that can be tragic, especially in our older years. Um, and clearly resistance exercise will increase bone density and make the bone stronger. Um, but one of the, I think, the kind of under emphasized aspects is let's not fall in the first place. And so functional movement exercises help with balance, agility, proprioception, so your sense of where your joint is in space, as well as range of motion. And so what you find by adding this component to the mix is, you've got good endurance from the aerobic, you've got good strength, so you're strong enough to, from your resistance work, and you're agile with the functional movement, and you just feel great from having that ability to move. Um, so that's kind of, when we look at that portfolio, putting that portfolio together, that's really kind of the exercise component, and it doesn't take a lot of time. But as you get into it, you start to progress more and you'll start to spend more time. So 150 minutes is kind of the starting point. What about the other 6,500 waking minutes? What does this have? What effect does this have? Um, and here's where we have to call attention to kind of sedentary or prolonged sitting. This is significantly associated with higher all-cause mortality risk, independent of physical activity. Um, you're just more likely to get sick and die if you're not using your body, in and it's just sitting for long periods. And this is consistent across men and women, across all age groups, across all weight categories, um, and across physical activity levels. So even if you're active from an exercise perspective, but you're sitting too much, your risk goes up. And so this one, especially in kind of our knowledge worker economy where more and more people are sitting, is really critical to address. Um, and so the lowest risk is for people that sit less than 8 hours per day, and get the 150 minutes of exercise. The two are synergistic. And in fact, if you are sitting greater than 8 hours per day, you are largely negating the effect of that 150 minutes per week. And so that's becomes the challenge. So to get up and get moving. So some tips here. Start your day with an extra 2 to 5 minutes of stretching. Um, you know, so good way to get some functional movement in. Take an extra load when you're doing groceries. Set a timer. Never sit longer than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Um, Park further away from your destination. Take 10-minute little walking breaks before you start a new task or before you do a meal. Sit, stand. March on the spot or squat when you're waiting for something like the microwave or brushing your teeth or take the stairs when you get the opportunity. Make some of your social activities active, right? Go for a walk with your friends. Do something physical, and try new activities. But probably the biggest thing is that last one, plan. You kind of have to plan the exercise component. It doesn't just happen. So a bunch of these little things you can actually just start to do as habits, but the exercise you really have to look at and plan. So for exercise, the 101 behaviors are 150 minutes of exercise per week, and move every hour. That's the 101, and it's really, really simple. And so if you're not doing that, just start by getting out for a 10-minute walk. That's it. Just go out, go for a 10-minute walk. Don't worry about how hard it is. Don't worry. Just kind of go out and enjoy it. Pick a nice spot or do it from home, whatever's easiest, and again, get started. And then just each week progress it. And pretty soon you'll be up to 150 minutes, and then you can kind of see what you wanted to start doing about building your portfolio. And then the other one, which I always kind of chuckle with because it's the one that I think captures a lot of us is moving every hour, not sitting. So you want to just kind of get up every hour or so, use your watch, use a tracker, develop some habits around this, and do that. The next step is really developing that portfolio of exercise to use your muscles. And And here, what we want to do is just kind of, work towards kind of a balance that is driving both endurance and driving strength, as well as functional movement and agility. And then the key part of that is making it fun and something that you'll enjoy and do for forever. So that's the end of the session for the our third session around using our muscles. Very straightforward, really kind of basic behaviors. It doesn't have to be complicated. There's always lots you can do to progress, but the most important thing is to get started.